There are tons of small, tiny little reptiles that make really good pets. And there's tons of medium-sized reptiles that make for really great pets, but this is way too common for this series. On this show, we talk about reptiles that are kind of under the radar. This is underrated. Cue the intro. Now, in the past 2 episodes, there has been a little bit of a preference towards lizards, and this time I want to change that. Which is why in this episode of Underrated, we are going to be doing cherryhead tortoises. Now, the reason why I would say that cherryheads are underrated, and also as a brief side thing, I think that they are the best pet turtle that anyone can get. Much better than any aquatic turtle, just as a general rule of thumb. If you've ever been friends with anyone who has an aquarium with turtles in it, you'll be aware that they're not the friendliest smelling creature to have around your house. And that friend will have probably mentioned to you that they are horrible to clean the tank with because they poop a lot. Now, of course, that stays kind of true for tortoises. They're bound to poop. But the thing about keeping them on soil instead of in water is that the soil doesn't get as dirty everywhere as the water does. You might say that they're a bit larger than what you would think about for like a beginner tortoise, but I actually think that they are much easier to have than something like a box turtle, because a box turtle will eat tons of things like shellfish, fish, all tons of proteins like little rats and mice and mealworms and all that stuff, in addition to their fruits and vegetables. So that's more complicated than something like this, which will only eat fruits and vegetables. Now, for those of you who haven't been keeping up with our videos lately, this is a brand new animal here at Mystic Animals. Her name is Cutie Pie, and she's a 13-year-old cherryhead tortoise, and she's great. She's fantastic. Now, she has a little bit of atrophy in her leg muscles, so she doesn't really raise her shell that high up. She kind of drags it along, but at least now she is walking around, which at first she was kind of stationary, a little bit more like a boulder than a pet boulder, if you know what I'm saying, you know. Now, the reason why I think they're underrated is because I think everybody likes turtles, right? I think they're such a special animal, and everybody falls in love with turtles, as opposed to something like lizards and snakes. With turtles, the bigger they get, the cuter they get, and the less people are afraid of them. I would challenge you to find anybody that's afraid of a galop or an aldabra, because those are absolutely fantastic species, and they're just modern day dinosaurs. Who wouldn't like that? Now, I understand that a galop or an aldabra or even a sulcata tortoise is pretty hard to house because of their sheer size, but something like this is perfectly mid-sized. Now, there are smaller tortoises that are out there, of course, but what I think is great about this size is that they're not big enough to be a problem to house, but they're not small enough so that they're fragile and you have to watch out around them. Like Herman's tortoises, unfortunately, if you kept your grass too long and you were walking in your yard, you wouldn't want to kick it because it's pretty small and you could hurt it. Now, I'm not saying go ahead and kick your cherry heads, but what I'm saying is that they're really more solid than you think. It really doesn't look like it, but this girl is super hefty. And I'm sorry for my carpet guys, tomorrow is vacuum day. So you don't have to worry about treating this turtle like something fragile. Like, in fact, I'm scratching her with all my might, and she is full on scratching back with her bum. Look at that, she's rotating, she wants the cuddle on her butt, and she'll push herself against my hand for that. And tortoises are amazing for that because they're really affectionate. Like, lizards don't want this kind of interaction. It's too much for them. And snakes, let's not even begin to talk about it because they don't like being overwhelmed either. But tortoises and turtles will love a couple of shell scratches, and they'll rub themselves against it and they'll love it. Now, cherryheads in particular are really social, and actually, they'll follow you around while you're doing chores, and it's almost like you've got a little pet boulder dog. Now, like I mentioned before, they are full-on herbivores, which means that they're actually super simple to feed. We do like 50% salad, 50% veggies with some fruits in there once or twice a week max, and a pretty hefty portion as well, because they'll eat a lot of food. A lot of people don't know this, but they actually will go for some protein once in a while. You can offer them like a pinky mouse or something like that, and they'll take it once in a while, not too often, but it's really good for their calcium intake. Other things that you can do for that is also spraying your veggies with the calcium powder, because that's good for them too. And it's great for their shell growth as well. You don't want them to be pyramided, and actually, if you take a look at this tortoise, it was very well fed and taken care of because there is no pyramiding on this at all. It is super smooth and super pretty. Look at the other angle, perfect tortoise. Now I'll let her down because she doesn't love being handled, but as you can see, she's coming towards the camera because she is a curious being. Now, the cat is behind the camera and we're not gonna let her come through because there's a gate, so that's fine for her. But something else that's pretty cool about these tortoises is that they live for a very, very long time. Now, this tortoise is 13 years old, so she'll probably be alive once our kids and even grandkids are born. Same thing with Sahara, which is our sulcata tortoise, and the thing is, sulcatas I don't think are underrated pets. I think they're a little bit overrated and people find them a bit too cute because they don't make that great of pets. But these guys definitely do. Now, as hatchlings, they're like this big when it comes to shells, so they're pretty easy to house when you get them baby, and you'd be looking at something like $500 Canadian if you were to get them up here. Not too sure about the States, but from what I've heard, cherry heads are about $250 to $300. I'm sorry, I'm just a Canadian boy over here. What I do know is that on average, they do get a bit smaller than redfoots, although this one is a poor example of that because it is quite a large cherry head. But if I plop her down on the ground, I'll show you that most of them are about this big. This is probably more about redfoot size than cherry head size, actually, if I'm being honest with you guys. It also goes without saying that if you don't spray for pesticides on your lawn, you can also take them out and they will mow your lawn a little bit at a time. And for those who didn't know, tortoises actually have a tail. Look at that, that's a cute little tail. Boop. Now, I'll put you down because I know you don't like it. Now, we're gonna give her a full 8x4x4 of space, and that's gonna be great, but she's also gonna have access to the entire room once it's fully decked out. She's gonna have a sliding door with a ramp that we're gonna be able to clamp on, and she's just gonna be able to come in and out as she pleases. Because as you can see, they're not very destructive, and they're pretty great to just have roaming around because they don't really do that much. Now, Kyle, I see you. You don't look at her like that. You don't look at her like she's food. She's not food. No, you can't eat that. Do you think you can eat that? Anyone in the comments that are well-versed in that stuff, give me your scientific opinion. Anyway, let's move on. I'm gonna go get my tortoise because it's actually kind of far away now. But that's a good thing about tortoises because if you have some space in your house or in your apartment or whatever, and it's just a free space and you don't have any other reptiles, this is a great reptile to have because you can just build it one big enclosure, right? It's kind of a feature. You can put your TV on it because it doesn't really need that much height anyway. It's a tortoise, what's it gonna do, climb? And then you can just open the door and just let it roam. Like, that's fantastic and such a good idea for a pet. I wouldn't recommend it if you have other pets like mammals, such as dogs or cats, at least not without supervision, because a dog jumping on that tortoise could definitely hurt it, and a cat thinking it's a toy could definitely kill it. Because while cats are cute, they are killing machines, so let's not forget that. She seems to have some sort of fascination with Kyle because she keeps going over there like if it's her best friend, and I'm really not quite understanding why that is. You do get that he would bite you, right? She doesn't care. She's like, I've seen him before. No, don't eat that, that's a piece of shed. Kyle has been exploding with shed lately, and it's actually been pretty cool to see because he's actually getting his adult colors and he's far more blue than we ever expected him to be. Not that he's a blue Nile or anything, because I've seen how blue they can get and he's definitely not that blue. And the camera doesn't really pick it up when we film him, so maybe I'll try to get a couple of actual good photos of him. I'll color correct it so that it seems like what you see with your eye. Obviously these photos will look modified, but keep in mind that any photo will be slightly desaturated when you take it, so color grading and color correction is actually much important. Actually, this is what this video looks like without color grading. Pretty boring, isn't it? But now we're back with the color grade, and I hope that you guys see the difference and how good that is. And in the same token, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to hit that like button and that subscribe button because it really helps us out. Also, that bell notification thing, click that because it really helps us out. The sooner after we post a video that you click on it, the better it is for our statistics. Also, first link in the description is the Mystic Animals Inner Club, and that is where you guys can answer cool questions of the day, have fun talking to all of the other members, as well as share reptile memes and all tons of other cool stuff, and it's all free. First link in the description. My name is Matt, this is Roxanne behind the camera.
Hello.
And this is Cutie Pie, and we're Mystic Animals. Peace. Thank you so much for checking out this video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit that like button, and if you really loved it, why don't you subscribe? It's free, you know?